Jake had always been drawn to remote, untouched places, and when he heard rumors about a forgotten village deep in the woods, he couldn't resist. His friends warned him not to go. There were too many strange stories about the place. People talked of villagers who vanished overnight, leaving their homes abandoned and the village overrun by the forest. No one knew what happened, and no one dared to find out. But Jake was different. He didn't believe in curses or ghost stories. He loved the thrill of exploring the unknown. Equipped with his camping gear, camera, and flashlight, Jake set off early in the morning. The dense woods were eerily quiet, the towering trees blotting out most of the sunlight. As he ventured deeper, the air grew colder and an unsettling silence hung over the forest, like the woods themselves were holding their breath. After hours of hiking, he finally reached it, the forgotten village. The place was more decayed than he had expected. Moss-covered roofs sagged under the weight of time, and vines curled around the rotting wood of the houses. It was as though the forest had slowly swallowed the entire village. Yet everything was intact. The homes were still standing, and personal items, plates, chairs, even clothes, were scattered around as if people had just left. Jake walked through the main street, his footsteps the only sound. The silence was unnerving. No birds, no wind, no animals. He stopped to snap some photos, but his camera malfunctioned. Frustrated, he decided to continue exploring. As he moved from house to house, he felt a strange sensation, like he was being watched. The sun was beginning to set when Jake noticed something odd. Every house had a mirror. A large, dusty mirror hung in the main room. Each one was cracked, with spiderweb fractures radiating from the center. The more he looked, the more disturbed he became. In some houses, the mirrors were shattered completely, but the shards were nowhere to be found, as if they had simply vanished. The village grew darker as the sun sank below the horizon. A sense of urgency set in. Jake needed to set up camp, but something about the village felt wrong. Against his better judgment, he decided to spend the night in one of the houses. After all, it was just an abandoned village. He chose a small, single-story cottage at the edge of the village. The roof was partially caved in, and the air inside was thick with the smell of damp wood and decay. As night fell, the temperature plummeted, and Jake's flashlight flickered ominously. He set up his sleeping bag in the corner of the room, far from the shattered mirror that still hung on the wall. As he lay there, trying to sleep, the silence became unbearable. Every creak of the old house, every rustle of the wind through the trees outside, felt amplified. He pulled his sleeping bag tighter around him, telling himself it was just an old village and nothing more. But then, in the middle of the night, he heard it, faint footsteps outside the house. Jake shot up, heart pounding. He listened carefully, straining to hear through the suffocating silence. The footsteps were slow, deliberate, as if someone or something was walking around the village. They seemed to stop right outside the cottage. Holding his breath, he reached for his flashlight, but it flickered again before going out completely. He cursed under his breath. The footsteps resumed, now heading toward the door of the cottage. They stopped just outside. Jake's heart raced. He silently prayed that whatever was out there would just move on. But then the door creaked, slowly opening, and cold air rushed into the room. He could barely see anything in the darkness, but he knew something or someone was standing in the doorway.